What's up, y'all? It's a little bit shaky there after I touched it. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today is the 11th of November, 2025, okay? This video is titled The Pinky Finger and the Thumb. Let's talk about it. What we do here on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company is allow the body to work. We come at it through clothing. We come at it through the skeletal system of the human being. We're a clothing company, but really it's about the natural function of the human body. The human body has a center line. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The jaw stabilizes not only just the head on top of our body, but our entire body down to our feet, where we've got arches in our feet, opposing the center line, gripping inward and keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. There's a center line to gravity. The body's center line, Earth's center of gravity, these things have to mesh. Musculature in the body connects to the center line, from the outside of the shoulder into the sternum, in the front, in the center, evenly on both sides. From the outside of the shoulder to the center in the spine, evenly on both sides. And there's a neutral to every position of everything in the body. Check this out. It's impossible, physically impossible, to train the human being. There's just a neutral. Boom! It's a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, okay? Despite what anybody's told you about things to do to get your body to work, it's only ever, and this is the truth, don't believe me, don't believe in the Image Clothing Company, but really, you can only ever allow God's design in the image of Jesus Christ, is how and who and by him we are designed to work. We can only allow it to work. That's the only thing you can do. Okay, In the Image Clothing Company, it's about the anatomy of the human body. It's about natural, neutral, and normal. Synonyms within the functioning of the human being, because there's only a neutral. The body only works naturally. A lot of man-made things nowadays that just never existed in the past. And that's how the body would normally work, is unaltered, okay? So, let's talk about it, okay? Clothing, though. We're a clothing company. Clothing has to stay centered, fit correct, where we talk about clothing sitting for everybody, and be made from 100% natural materials. Unnatural materials just didn't exist even decades ago from today's date back, and they bring stretch with them, a lot of the time at least, okay? All musculature in the body only contracts, and there's just opposing muscles to a function. One side shortens and works, while the other side just relaxes. And then now this side shortens and works, and the other side just relaxes, okay? So stretching the body's damaging, but if we're in a twist, shoelaces, drawstrings, ropes that are just introduced to the body, potentially tied unevenly, clothing, oversized, imbalanced, rotating the body, we might feel like we want to stretch. Stretch goes the opposite direction of the only way that muscles could ever work, okay? So stretch within clothing comes with these unnatural materials that are only decades old as of today's date. If they're stretching your clothing, you're stretching your muscles as well. Okay, so there's a neutral to rotations. Internal rotation from the neutral, and external rotation from the neutral. From the hand to the forearm, okay, meaning from the hand to the elbow, which is the forearm. From the hand up to the shoulder, the entire arm. And then from the foot to the knee, which is like the forearm. And then from the foot to the hip, which is like the entire arm, okay? A neutral, straight out from the pinkies of both the toes forward and the pinky fingers forward. And then we have rotations, internal, external. We have functioning. We have a body that we have no say over how it works, designed in the image of God. We have a pinky and we have a thumb, okay? For this video specific. There's 4 sides to In the Image Clothing Company. I'll talk about the other 3 where I do in this, okay? The thing with the pinky finger and the thumb, this video's title, the pinky finger and the thumb. There's actually a test that people do when they're talking about like physical ability to operate as a human being, right? It's just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. But when you have to take like a physical exam, if you will, to be doing certain occupations in life, sometimes they'll do this test. Can you touch your pinky finger to your thumb? Because you need to be able to. We talked about the neutral wrist, like I did already in this video, as one of the many hundreds that we have under In the Image Clothing Company's main site alone as of today's date. The neutral wrist is straight out from that pinky finger, okay? Now, we've got a lot of videos talking about the importance of even, because there's two sides to the body opposing the center line on Earth's gravity. The importance of the same size hands, okay? The importance of even forearm rotations, okay? Things in the hands, things in the feet, and those are the extremities of the body coming into the center. We talk about tops fitting us correct, right at the very edges of our shoulders, okay? For those edge seams of our tops on our shoulders. The seams on top of our shoulders sitting behind the peak of the shoulders evenly, because our shoulders follow shoulder seams and they just connect to our bodies behind our head. We talk about, under In the Image Clothing Company podcast, one of our fourths, an episode titled Mind the Gap, where I talked about a lot to do with the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is what we do under In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We discuss the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. We're all human beings placed on the same earth. We have one God who designed us all in his image. That's why we have a clothing company. There's really only anything to do with clothing for the sake of the human body's natural function. We have four sides, and this fourth of us here in the Image Clothing Company podcast that I'm discussing, we're on episode 177 of just discussing life as it is. So mind the gap. I talked about the gospel of Jesus Christ, minding our gap between us and God, potentially getting distracted into worldly things, but also minding the gap physically in our bodies between our own arm and our own side. The rib cage in the arm, or the natural waist, where my fanny pack is sitting, and the elbow, okay? Under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company here, there's a video titled Mind. That is not the case. That's what I'm discussing about In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Keeping elbows at the natural waist is the video's title that I'm referencing here on the elbows. If we can keep our elbows at our natural waist, which is where pants sit, right? Above the hip bones, but below the lowest ribs, that's our natural waist. That's where we just bend side to side at our spine. You can see it while I'm wearing this fanny pack. That's just where we bend and move and hinge as a human being, side to side. Forward and back, it happens at the hips. Okay? Like a bow. Keeping elbows at the natural waist then allows our arms to just hang down with gravity. Natural, neutral, normal is the natural waist and the elbow sitting together. There's a video under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company here titled The Natural Scapula Position, okay? Scapulas are the big bones on our upper back, or our shoulder blades is another name for them. There's only one neutral position for everything in the entire body. The scapulas have a neutral from up, down, back, forth, and rotations. There's just a neutral to the body from the shoulders, okay? And the elbows hang straight down from the shoulders neutral position at our natural waist. The human body can only ever work activated as a whole. Everything's there. Everything's got a role to play. We can't drag around dead weight, and no compensation can happen when everything has its own unique individual function. There's a truck over here that might be wondering who I'm speaking to, because there's no human beings right here, okay? But there's a thing that's able to film video, okay? Little device. So, what we have is keeping our elbows at the natural waist in order to keep our arms just hanging down with gravity. Because that's a lot of what we do as human beings, is just deal with gravity in our daily lives. How do we deal with gravity and not alter our bodies? How do we place clothing on our bodies and not alter our bodies? There's only one way the human body could ever work. No opinion. But we need to understand this. And a big thing that happens with this is the pinky fingers and the thumb. Because in order to keep our bodies working, it all has to just work in its only working position. And our elbows' only working position, at least in its neutral, where it just always comes back to, is at the natural waist. Okay? And so with our elbows here at the natural waist, now we can have a neutral wrist, straight out from the pinky finger. Okay? And what we need to be able to do is get our pinky finger to our thumb without compensation happening anywhere else in the body. Because let's look at it like this. If we just look at the hand, One side of the hand is the pinky finger. The other side of the hand is the thumb. So really we're just getting the outermost parts of our hands to come in and touch together. But now here's where the whole idea of mind the gap comes in, okay? Our elbows need to stay at our natural waist, like this. Like this, just meaning resting, vertical, with gravity, without being too far forward, like feet arches collapsed down at our foundation, feet sticking out, our elbows are too far forward, or anything causing them to be anywhere else instead of their neutral position. The elbows just need to remain hanging down from where our shoulders are with gravity while we do things with our hands, okay? So there's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here titled, What Really Is Grip Strength? Yeah, what grip strength really is. Yeah, titled like that, something like that, okay? And I talked a lot about that, you know, keeping the whole body neutral, and then we can focus on the hand, because the hand comes from not only in here at the shoulder, but from there, we've got to start at the center line of the body before we can even get out to the shoulder. But before we can even get to the center line of the body here, we're on Earth's gravity, and we got to start down at our feet. In the Image Clothing Company's shoelacing technique, the only way the human feet are shaped, there's just only one way we can weave a rope across the top of all the mechanics in the feet, with the natural shape of those gripped arches, just how all the bones can clear each other and work neutral, just like the hands, right? So, starts at the feet, because in order to, we'll wait for this truck. Oh man, look at the reflection on the water. Holy, I didn't really realize it was quite that clear when I started filming this. Watch the truck go by. Hello, everybody say hi to the truck. It's like one of those home videos you give to your children. Maybe. Yeah, that's funny. One day is what I mean. All right, so the feet allow for these hand arches. If our feet arches are collapsed, we won't have hand arches. Okay, this is me collapsing the arches of my feet. I'll even stick my feet out, right? Now, my hands are doing the same thing as my feet, okay? Good gripped arches in the feet, good arches in the neutral hand, okay? Feet pointing, pinky toes straight forward, hands pointing, pinky toes straight forward, neutral. Okay, the foot, right, neutral, forward. From its rotations, straight out the pinky. Because here, we're neutral. From the feet, up through the body to the elbows, out and down the elbows to the pinky fingers, but only if everything else can come before the hands. The hands are the extremity. The hands are the farthest thing away from the feet. The tip of the head isn't the farthest thing away from the feet, because watch this. Right? If we reach our hand as far as it can go above our own head, then I fall in the water, hypothetically, then the hands are actually the farthest thing away from the feet. So in order to have our hands have their natural rounding, we have to start at the feet, just supporting the entire body, working the same as the hands, gripping arches. There's only one difference in the amount of bones in the feet and the hands, and they work so similarly. Both neutrals are straight out the pinkies, pinky finger and pinky toe. And then we can have a neutral body traveling up from the feet through the lower legs in the natural knee bend, in the natural pelvis position, activated in the core of the body, just vertically stacked on Earth's gravity, traveling up through the spine to the shoulder, out to the elbow, and then to the hand. We can be neutral. Okay, jaw stabilizing the entire body, spine neutral, jaw neutral, head neutral. Here you go. Now you can have hand arches. Okay. The big focus, mind the gap. If we can't have our elbows be hanging down just straight with Earth's gravity, then our excess material here at our sides from an oversized top will not allow our elbows to even straighten. And now what happens is we can't get our pinkies to our thumbs, because really getting our pinkies to our thumbs just means rounding the hand. Look at this, right? These three fingers in the center are bordered by the pinky and the thumb. Okay, so now we're in the center, neutral wrist, straight out from that pinky, but in between the whole arm, there's these 3 fingers. When the pinky touches the thumb, now there's the rounding to the hand, only because we're on Earth's gravity if we first start at the feet, not altering the feet's arches with incorrect shoe lacing, uneven shoe tying to the right, We get in these right-handed patternings in this right-handed world. 85% of human beings, give or take, are right-handed. So a lot of the time, our rotations get farther external on the right side, dropped lower, and just away from our body's center. Oversized tops, you'll just have a gap that you are not minding so well, right, in that instance. On the right side, just because using your right hand in life, gravity just pulls on your top. And so what happens is we'll notice, like I said, the video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, keeping hands the same size, but the actual title is The Importance of the Same Size Hands. If we can't close our hand all the way, the hand is the shoulder. And between the hand and the shoulder, we've got the elbow that needs to stay at the natural waist. Okay? To close the hand all the way, really what that means is the farthest 2 away from each other fingers. Maybe the thumb's not a finger so much, right? If there's only 4 fingers. But the things that are on the farthest outsides of the hand, they have to come all the way into each other. But this has to happen without compensation. Otherwise, other parts of the body get pulled on. If we can't get our elbow to our natural waist, in order to close our hand here, we have to compensate with things to just get musculature to work, right? The hand stems from the shoulder, all the musculature and tendons coming to the fingertips couldn't exist if the shoulder didn't first exist. And there's only one neutral contraction between each of the shoulders from the center line of the body at the spine and the sternum. There's a video here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company titled, What Really Is Neck Pain? And talked a lot about that, the evenness to contraction of muscles on Earth's gravity, because Earth has gravity. Pulls straight down, the human body has a center line. So things like the dreaded collar seam that's in our tops, we call it the dreaded collar seam under In The Image Clothing Company, right? The dreaded collar seam modification is what we have come up with in The Image Clothing Company, right? To keep our collars centered. Same thing we do for dogs. Another one of our fourths, In The Image Clothing Company poodles. We specialize in purebred standard poodles, but we give information that applies to all dogs on letting dogs stay natural. The same thing as allowing the body to work on the main side here, except we phrase it different. It's an entirely separate fourth of us, but encapsulated with all we are as In The Image Clothing Company, our 4 sides as a whole. Okay, our 5-word name. That's an episode title of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, actually. That's where you can go to find anything and everything we do, is just under our 5-word name. But keeping collar centered, because there's musculature that goes through our neck, that goes through the top of our collar, or the collar of our top, okay? And if we don't have even opposing muscles to the center line of the body, as the musculature comes through our neck, because we have a man-made item of clothing with a collar that's imbalanced sitting on our neck, we'll never be able to get our elbows at our sides evenly. Just because gravity and something's physically placed on us, and there's just 2 sides to the center line of the body. And so, in order to keep the elbows at the natural waist, we have to have our tops fitting us correct. And in order to keep our hands the same size, to be able to touch the farthest out fingers together in both hands, we have to be able to get evenness to our whole body. Try this if you want to. Okay? Standing even, feet even, evenly gripped arches opposing the center line of the body. Pelvis neutral, slightly posteriorly tucked, just directly under you. Activated, body through all of it. Okay? Vertical, no such thing as posture. There's only one neutral to everything in the body. There's only one way the human body could ever work, no opinion. But we're just on Earth's gravity. How is everything going to work together to keep us vertical? Well, it's like this. Activated as a whole. The entire body just working together. There's only one way it can all work together. It's all connected in only one positioning and motion, and that needs to happen to be able to have the pinkies and the thumbs touch. So this is what I'm saying. Feet even, hips even, shoulders even, elbows to the natural waist, jaw, stabilizing the entire body, nice and centered. There you go. Take your thumbs with your forearms internally rotated and touch your thumbs together at the center of your body with your elbows staying right next to your natural waist. Okay. From here, try to touch your pinkies into your thumbs. And what's probably going to happen within patterning, the right-handed world, even myself, I'm over a year into In The Image Clothing Company as the founder in this for life. I'm still getting out of chronic patterning and scar tissue slightly, right? From the things, oversized clothing, imbalances in clothing, ropes introduced to the body, like I said a few minutes ago here, give or take, right? Also, we just talk about everything in life, standing, sitting, walking, eating, breathing, sleeping, hydration, everything that we do for human beings and dogs, and just doing these things natural. The goal is natural on all four sides of In The Image Clothing Company. And as I have been getting out of these patternings, my right hand is still slightly wider than my left, still just slightly bigger than my left, still slightly less dexterity in my right hand than in my left. Okay, takes time. There's a lot. There's deep stuff going on when it comes to the patterning we get into, right? Not a walk in the park. Also, never be the same. A couple episodes of In The Image Clothing Company podcast. You know, once we do this stuff and get our bodies back to their only workings, it's a lot to go through, but you could never possibly get back into the same situation unless you went through the amount of time it took to get into the situation. It takes years and decades in cases to get into the depth of patterning we get into when we're just using our bodies outside of their only neutral position. Okay, so the hand has to close. Things need to fit in our hands. A video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. Okay, we just talk about the hands a lot because you'll never address your shoulder health if you can't close your hand all the way. Okay, and really closing your hand all the way really means just getting the pinky to the thumb, but we got to watch out for the compensation. So keeping the elbows at the natural waist, if we're here in this internally rotated forearm position, touching the thumbs together in the center of the body, with the whole body as centered as we can be to try this test, if you want to call it that. Now, what happens a lot of the time is in order to try to get your pinkies to touch your thumbs, and even me right now, my right elbow wants to try to come out away from my natural waist slightly. It's hard. I feel straining between my fingers with the built up bone mass, truly, between the joints of the fingers here. And I've shown, right, patterning in the hands. I made a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company where I measured physically with a measuring tape the distance and width of my hands from so many years with imbalanced shoulders, shoes tied unevenly, drawstrings tied with a right-handed knot, my right shoulder lower than my left because of the dreaded collar seam as just one of the things that's almost always in the upper left side of top collars, oversized clothing that I wore for years, and just things that we do even just being right-handed. Using your hand on the right side more, having short fingernails and not able to actually fully support your fingers with fingernails all the way to the tips of them, cut relatively flat on the tips so that we don't just roll around out of the neutral wrist. Okay, I was doing a lot of these things. I was doing basically all, just about, at least, you know, without actually going through and talking about each and everything, just about all the things that I talk about as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company we can't be doing to alter the body are the very things that I was doing that led me to the understanding that I now have founding In The Image Clothing Company, allowing the body to work, right? So the big thing is we just got to watch out for that compensation, trying to get all the body in its neutral position to stay there while we touch our pinky fingers to the thumbs, because that's just the full range of motion from fully open hands to fully closed, at least from one side to the other, all the way closed together, and then having your thumbs in the center of your body and having your elbows at your natural waist, having your whole body neutral by just being activated and even throughout it from the feet up to the tip of the head and out to the tips of the fingers while we're doing this test, if you will, okay? If you're noticing compensation where your elbow is trying to come away from your side here on the right side, or your right heel tries to come off the ground, your right shoulder tries to roll forward to compensate, your jaw tries to come off to the right, right? We have to remember this. The hand is the shoulder, but the shoulder is the jaw. The foot is the hip, but really the hips come up to the shoulders. Just the entire body, it all can only work together. So that's what I mean. The importance of the same size hands, we have to, because mechanically we just have bones that have to clear each other. And this is not an exaggeration. I can't close my right fingers all the way together as of today's date right now, still. There's just the excess built up bone mass here, because having my shoulder just dropped for so many years, away from my body for so many years, not minding the gap, right, that clothing causes here, oversized, a dreaded collar seam, in the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, rotated seams in clothing, pulling my right side off and away when they're rotated toward the right, in the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification, right? All these things just caused my body to not be able to close my hand all the way because it starts at the shoulder. And it's at the elbow as well, in between the hand and the shoulder. If there's a gap there, it'll never happen. A fully closed hand. So we need to be able to touch our pinky fingers to our thumbs. While everything in the body is neutral and the body's centered, keeping our elbows at our natural waist, just so we're not out here doing things, because now gravity's pulling on you over here. Not directly down from your shoulder. When you're doing things and your elbow's not at your side and you say, okay, I can touch my pinky and thumb. Well, get your elbow all the way to your side, and you might not be able to. It might pull your pinky away from your thumb if you put your elbow to your side, or it might pull your elbow away from your side if you try to put your pinky to your thumb. You see what I mean? There's just stuff in the way, bound up things in the forearm. We talk about the right-handed world. Choose the right, an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and just about the only side in just about everybody's case across the earth of the body that we need to address is the right side. When it comes to breaking up scar tissue and patterning and problems in the body, in all the areas where things get really bound up, okay, the right side of the jaw, the right elbow, the right outside of the forearm, the right pinky finger, the right collarbone. Yeah, the right side of the jaw is huge. The jaw is huge. We have so many videos talking about the jaw. We'll always just put so much focus on the jaw under In the Image Clothing Company. The right shin bone, the right Achilles tendon, and we have specific videos on a lot of these things that I just mentioned under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company. But any one of them and every one of them that will just not allow the hand to close all the way, just because the hand is the entire body. It's all there. It'll affect the entire body from the hand. Okay, vice versa. Something in the body affecting the hand will then affect the entire body in the ways that it does. And I've made videos on the hand, but this is a very specific one because this is where the rounding in the hand comes from. The support from the fingernails, same thing with toenails, right? All the way to the tips. You can round the corners, but we want it to be relatively flat on the tips so that we're not rolling out of the neutral wrist, and we just have so much natural grip strength, okay? And, well, that's what the nails are for. That's why we've been given fingernails by God, is to support the fingertips, okay? But then, not being able to have that elbow at the natural waist just won't allow the wrist to stay neutral. So here in the neutral wrist position, straight forward from the pinky with my elbows at my natural waist, I can just bring my thumbs to my pinky fingers. But if I get my elbow away from my natural waist, I just can't get my thumb to my pinky finger without compensation. Just because mechanically you just have bones that have an inline tracking position and they just have to clear. And when you get in a position where they just can't, then they just can't. If you get away from your sides, well, gravity is pulling straight down from your shoulder. But now your elbow's out there, off to the side from your shoulder, and so your hand will go from neutral, out the pinky finger from the outside of the forearm, to being out of its neutral position. The shoulder will drop, the muscles will be elongated and pulled on like these upper trapezius muscles up here. And now your body is being damaged, okay? And it's probably only on your right side. The importance of even short sleeves, right? If we have uneven short sleeves, and that can be coming from just an oversized top falling to your dominant side that you're just using more and gravity's pulling on and the material is being used more and potentially just stretching, not stretch in clothing, but right, just pulling on the fibers of the clothing more on the side that you're using more, then we can have our short sleeves touching our forearms, and now we have rotations coming from the forearms, which are just two bones that roll over each other in each of the forearms, okay? Not able to internally rotate. And internal rotation is where we'd go to touch the pinky to the thumb, okay? Because out here, I mean, you can, but really, the thumb is clear on the outside of the hand. So to get the thumb inside, right? I mean, look inside the arms with the hands externally rotated, palms up. Inside the arm is straight out the end of the pinky, and clear on the outside is where this thumb is. Much farther away from the arm than the pinky finger, because the pinky finger is straight out from the inside of the arm. The thumb's actually pointing straight off to the side. So to actually get the thumb in to touch the pinky, we have to internally rotate. You can't get the thumb there, not really, unless you come in, just bring it from the outside of the arm where the thumb is in this palm up position inside. See what I mean? Internal rotation, and that happens closest to the body's center line, just where the musculature contracts and pulls us in. But in the forearm, it happens from these two bones having the outside bone, okay, a radius and an ulna in the arm. The bone on the outside of the arm has to roll up and over the inside of the inside bone to rotate the hand and the whole forearm inward. And as it does, our short sleeves need to stay off of our rotation to our forearms, or else we won't have it. Short sleeve will just sit on the forearm and push our hand external. Push the thumb away from the pinky finger, push the arm out to the side, not minding the gap now. There's a gap between the elbow and the natural waist, because to get inside from outside, if you will, to get internal from external, we need space here at the forearm, keeping short sleeves short. A video, like I said, under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. The importance of even short sleeves. Oh, that's the one that I said. A video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, but the other one is one as well. And our hands can then be neutral. No gap between our elbows and our sides. And now we're here, straight out from the pinky, able to internally rotate the thumb inward and touch the thumb to the pinky. Because this is what I was saying, you know, with the test, if you will. With the arms at the sides and the elbows at the natural waist, we bring the thumbs into the center of the body. This is the position I was showing for what we could call the test of this, right? I don't know if that's how they do it. When I said other people test this, this is what I'm showing here. I've just heard that people do this as a test of just, you know, physical capability of dexterity in the hands, meaning movement, limberness, if you will, of all the motion and range of motion. There's just only a full range to motion, right, in parts of the body. And with the hands, that's what it is, from the outside, on either side, touching. So, the pinky fingers and the thumb. The pinky finger and the thumb. The pinkies touch the thumb, and there you go. Rounding in the hands, it comes from the feet. Because if our feet aren't directly underneath us, but they're sticking out, right, in only one of their rotations, like the hands, just sticking out, in only one of their rotations, external from neutral, and from there we have internal, which can only happen right next to the body. Okay, I mean, the bones just rotate. You'll just hit bones into each other. You'll never get internal rotation. Half of your body's functioning, right? If you have a gap between your side here, if you have sleeves sitting on your forearms, if you have oversized tops just pulling your shoulders down, right? Not even allowing you to close your hand to begin with. If you have shoes in ways that just don't allow your feet to be neutral, in whatever way that could be, heels on the shoes, the importance of zero drop shoes, the term. A video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, just no heels on the shoes, keeping our feet flat on the earth, otherwise the whole body's altered and we'll never get neutral. The elbows will just stick off to the sides just because mechanically that's how it happens. Take the feet off the ground, there's an excessive forward to back bend through the whole body. The pelvis leans forward, anterior, the spine curves, and then the shoulders that connect to the spine fall forward. And now just rotation-wise, your elbows will stick out because there's this lack of rotation and musculature activation, just neutral, because it's being pushed off of its neutral from shoe heels, right? Heels on our shoe soles. And that will not allow you to touch your pinky finger to your thumb. But laces in shoes, right? Not allowing the room and the natural shape of the arch of the foot, okay? In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. Nothing to do with us, but truly just the only way the human feet are shaped. There's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here titled, "There is only one way the feet are shaped." Maybe the word human is in there. There's only one way the human feet are shaped. In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, though, okay? It's also an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast in the 170s. In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. Because it always starts at the feet. Okay? Because then we can have our hand arches. Neutral feet can support the entire body to have the neutral rest of the body unless something else is happening throughout somewhere that's not allowing it to be neutral before we get to the hand. From the feet on Earth's gravity. Okay? So, that's the big thing. Touching the pinky finger to the thumb. It's a lot of what I was saying with the right-handed patterning in the right-handed world. We need to break up the scar tissue in the outside of our forearm here, in our elbow joint. And you can probably still see very slightly my right elbow is more pointy than my left. You see this so commonly just with human beings, just because in a patterning. If you have just built up patterning in your right forearm or your right elbow, scar tissue and just bound up things, you're just going to be a physical wider arm that you can't even get to your side. Look at my fingers, right? Just because the arm's wider from scar tissue on the elbow, excess muscle mass in the forearm, musculature adhering to the side of the forearm because we've been stuck in an unneutral position, again, stemming at the feet from tying shoes to the right on both feet, okay? And so we've just got this chronic shortening of things in the right arm. We need to break up all that scar tissue, and then we can touch our hands evenly together, right? At one side to the other, meaning the pinky to the thumb on both hands, with the rest of our body neutral as well, okay? So, this is the big thing, is it's the entire body. Eating and drinking with the left hand. A video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. Really just meaning the non-dominant hand. Look at this gap. Eating with my right hand over here, leaning off to the right side. Shoelaces, drawstrings, maybe. Tied to the right, where my center of gravity is just off to the right side of my body's center line anyway, okay? If we can eat with the left hand, or non-dominant hand, then we can have our dominant or right hand, in 85% give or take of people's cases, at our own side. And now you're here, able to touch your thumb to your pinky finger when your elbow's at your side, because your weight's off to the other side, eating. because your jaw is off to the other side, stabilizing your entire body, and the teeth just wear down. They just do, naturally. Friction, right? Chewing food. Yeah. So our jaws have to stay centered. Our collars have to stay centered. Our tops have to sit even. We have to have as little gap as we can. And this fanny pack shows there's basically no gap now when my elbows hang right where the fanny pack band is. See what I mean? And I can touch my pinky fingers to my thumbs because there's not a gap changing how my arms hang with gravity. We need pants above the hips, slightly higher in the front than the rear at the natural waist, because then we're vertical, neutral on Earth's gravity, okay? We need drawstrings to be horizontal. We show the slipped lap knot. Tie the tail end to the center and you've got a horizontal waistband. Rather than rotating your entire hips and now there's no way you'll ever get your arm to your side with a rope around your waist, just twisting your hips, okay? So, yeah, try to work on your hands dexterity all you want. If there's anything at your hips, at your feet, in your jaw, at your shoulders, any part of your body, anywhere else besides your hand that's altered, you'll never close this gap between your pinky and your thumb. And if you can't do that, then you can't just have full range of motion in your hand, because this is essentially just directly in the neutral, right? The three center fingers are the ones pointing out when the pinky and the thumb are touching. So this is where you'd have the most dexterity, really, other than just being straight out from the pinky finger, but, you know, centered. We have to, and it's hard for me. See, I can't get all my fingers to quite sit together yet. I'm working on it, you know? I'm the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. I preach what I have practiced, right? I'm doing the very things that I speak about before I speak about them. That's how I know. But we live in this universal right-handed world. We're all designed in the image of God. We have the same universal human design body structure mechanically. It's just a mechanical machine. And so we're interacting with the same things. We're using the same things that are flat. That's the other thing, right? Sure, you've got your shoes laced in ways and tied in ways where your arches can be there that can then allow your hand arches from your feet arches to be there. Unless you use something flat, now there'll be a gap at your elbow, okay? Like I'm showing, touching the thumb to the pinky finger is just rounding the hand. Holding things flat, you'll never get the pinky to the thumb. There's just a rounding to the hands, okay? So, incorporating a radius in daily life. Videos that I made under In The Image Clothing Company's main site. It was about a year ago, those ones, but you know, still the information's valid. I just don't know if those will always quite stay like they are where they're placed, but that's the point. It's just always incorporating a radius or a rounding in daily life. On In The Image Clothing Company music, the last fourth of us to mention in this, that's a lot of what gets shown is the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter the neutral wrist and that natural rounding to our hands, okay? A radius in guitars, the rounding to the fretboard, the nut and the saddle, okay? Music gets made, though, geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ, metronome madness. Actually, I just filmed episode 38 and episode 39 today of Metronome Madness. You know, rhythm and poetry, freestyling around the gospel of Jesus Christ. But singing, guitar playing, music just gets made there where it does, okay? So anyway, there you go. Yeah. All the fingers have to touch, right? At the pads. It's not the very tips, it's the pads. Just mechanically, that's how it works. And now there's a lot of context here in this video on how to allow that to be the case. Okay, so the pinky fingers and the thumbs, there you go. And there you go. Okay, a lot more that I could say in this, but we'll do this as we do, right? I'm in this for life. There we go. Okay, today's the 11th of November, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, and there's your context for this video on pinkies to thumbs. Watch that compensation, whether it's in the shoulder or in the jaw or in the neck, in the spine, in the hips, down to the feet, anywhere. Keep the neutrals, allow for dexterity, and now you know a lot of where that's coming from and how to let it be what it is. Okay, so there you go. Shout out to St. George, Utah. Right, we're based in Utah, United States of America. Poodle Parade events, one of the events we do under In The Image Clothing Company. Bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodles of any size. We'll do a lot in nature, getting people into nature, dogs into nature, a lot of beautiful things, okay, and beautiful places like this, right? Just meaning this is a beautiful place, and this is Utah. Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you.